We all know who he is, but do we know who he was?
Looks like Santa Claus is real after all.
This is the man who inspired the legend of Father Christmas.
Scientists have just discovered the real tomb of Santa Claus, and what's inside will shock you.
Santa Claus from Turkey? Who'd have thought? His modern image was born, the name changed. St. Nicholas to Santa Claus.
Join us today as we get into the Christmas spirit by revealing the truth about Father Christmas. A shocking discovery. Archaeologists have made an astonishing find. They believe they have located the tomb of St. Nicholas, the historical figure who inspired the modern-day Santa Claus. The discovery took place near the Church of St. Nicholas in modern-day Turkey, where a 6-foot-long limestone sarcophagus was uncovered. The tomb, featuring a raised lid and a peaked roof, was found buried approximately 6 feet underground in a site adjacent to the church. This sarcophagus was located in a 2-story building that borders the church's southern courtyard. The archaeological team is now carefully examining the sarcophagus, hoping to find an inscription that could shed light on the date of its creation and the identity of the person buried within. Associate Professor Ebru Fatma Findik from Hatay Mustafa Kemal University stated, "The discovery of a sarcophagus near the church, believed to house the tomb of St. Nicholas, may suggest we have found the sacred space we've been searching for." This remarkable find occurred in the ruins of an ancient basilica that was submerged by rising Mediterranean waters during the Middle Ages.
Like and subscribe right now, and you'll have amazing luck for the rest of the week.
Historical documents suggest that a church was later built over the ruins to protect the tomb of the saint. However, it wasn't until recent excavations revealed intricate mosaic flooring and stone tiles that archaeologists were able to pinpoint the location of St. Nicholas's final resting place.
Which one is cuter? Like for the dog, comment for the cat.
The true story. St. Nicholas, who lived from around 270 to 343 AD, is famous for his generosity and acts of kindness. One of the most well-known stories about him tells of how he inherited a fortune and used it to help the poor, including secretly providing dowries for 3 girls, thus saving them from being sold into prostitution. Though these stories have been passed down through generations, they are based on oral traditions rather than documented historical texts. The figure of Santa Claus evolved from these tales of St. Nicholas, especially his reputation for performing miracles and anonymously giving gifts to those in need. The name Santa Claus is derived from the Dutch nickname for Saint Nicholas, Sinterklaas, which is a shortened version of Sint Nicolaas, meaning Saint Nicholas in Dutch. The team continues to carefully excavate the site, with plans to fully reveal the sarcophagus in the coming months. We've uncovered part of the sarcophagus lid and a small section of its base. We plan to dig deeper to expose it entirely, said Professor Findik. Although historical records indicate that St. Nicholas was buried in the church dedicated to him, the exact location of his remains has long been a mystery. The Byzantine church that once stood over the saint's tomb was a significant place of worship for Orthodox Christians between the 5th and 12th century. Statues of St. Nicholas adorned the church, and the structure was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1982. In recent years, archaeological surveys conducted beneath the Church of St. Nicholas have revealed gaps in the flooring, suggesting the existence of an earlier structure beneath it. These surveys eventually led to the discovery of what might be the tomb of the saint. However, the team was cautious about disturbing the church's delicate Byzantine-era flooring, opting to carefully remove it to avoid causing any damage. In 2022, the researchers announced that they may have located the saint's tomb, but further excavation work was necessary. Osman Eravzar, head of the Provincial Cultural Heritage Preservation Board in Antalya, stated at the time, "The first church was submerged by rising sea levels, and a second church was built on top of it. We have now uncovered the floor of the original church, where St. Nicholas himself once walked." Historical accounts also suggest that in 1087, St. Nicholas's bones were removed from his tomb and transported by merchants to the city of Bari, Italy. However, new research suggests that the bones taken to Bari may not have belonged to St. Nicholas at all. Some scholars now believe that the bones smuggled to Italy actually belonged to an unknown priest rather than the famous saint. Nevertheless, St. Nicholas's relics remain enshrined in the Basilica of San Nicola in Bari, Italy, and fragments of his bones have been distributed to various churches worldwide. How did Santa Claus come to America? The legend of Santa Claus began to take root in American culture toward the end of the 18th century, as Dutch settlers in New York brought with them the tradition of celebrating St. Nicholas. In December of 1773, and again in 1774, a New York newspaper reported that Dutch families gathered to celebrate the feast day of St. Nicholas. It was through these early celebrations that the figure of St. Nicholas, or Sinterklaas, began to emerge in American society, eventually evolving into the beloved Santa Claus, which translates to St. Nicholas. This transformation of the name was just one of the ways in which the figure of St. Nicholas gradually changed as he became more embedded in American culture. In 1804, John Pintard, a member of the New York Historical Society, played a pivotal role in popularizing St. Nicholas when he distributed woodcut prints of the saint during the Society's annual meeting. These woodcuts depicted now iconic Christmas imagery, including stockings filled with toys and fruit hanging by a fireplace, symbols that would later become closely associated with Santa Claus. The figure of Sinterklaas was further popularized in 1809 by Washington Irving, who referred to him as the patron saint of New York in his book, The History of New York. Irving's portrayal of St. Nicholas as a quirky and mischievous figure, sometimes described as a rascal wearing a blue hat and red vest, helped shape the modern image of Santa Claus. In Irving's descriptions, St. Nicholas was often portrayed as a jovial, slightly whimsical character, which resonated with the growing fondness for holiday cheer and gift-giving in early 19th century America. As the tradition of Christmas gift-giving grew in popularity, particularly among children, it became increasingly tied to the figure of Santa Claus. The idea of giving gifts to children became central to the holiday's celebrations, particularly as Christmas began to regain prominence in American society. By the 1820s, stores began marketing holiday shopping, and by the 1840s, newspapers had started creating dedicated holiday sections featuring Christmas advertisements. These often included depictions of the newly popularized Santa Claus. In 1841, a major event helped further cement Santa Claus's place in American culture. A department store in Philadelphia unveiled a life-size model of Santa Claus. This attraction drew thousands of children and their families, and it wasn't long before other stores across the country began displaying similar models to capture the attention of the holiday crowd. The idea of bringing children to see a live Santa Claus grew even more widespread in the years that followed. By the early 1890s, the Salvation Army used the figure of Santa Claus in a new and unique way. Needing funds to provide free Christmas meals to families in need, the organization dressed unemployed men in Santa Claus costumes and sent them to street corners in New York City to solicit donations. This marked the beginning of the now familiar tradition of Salvation Army Santas ringing bells and raising funds in cities across the United States, a practice that continues to this day. The Macy's department store Santa, introduced in 1924, also became a beloved figure, appearing in almost every Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade since its inception. Even today, children eagerly line up at Macy's and other department stores across the country to sit on Santa's lap, share their Christmas wishes, and pose for photos. Santa around the world. While the American version of Santa Claus became widely recognized, similar gift-giving figures rooted in the legend of St. Nicholas can be found in other cultures worldwide. In German-speaking countries and Switzerland, there is Christkind. In Scandinavian countries, the Jultomte. In England, the figure of Father Christmas is said to visit homes on Christmas Eve, filling stockings with holiday treats. The tradition of Père Noël in France involves the kindly figure filling children's shoes with gifts, a tradition that reflects similar customs found across Europe. In the United States, Santa Claus is often depicted flying from home to home on Christmas Eve in his magical sleigh, guided by his 8 reindeer: Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner, and Blitzen. The most famous of these reindeer, Rudolph, with his red nose, has become a beloved character in his own right. Santa enters homes through the chimney, which is why children hang stockings in hopes of receiving gifts. This tradition was immortalized in the famous poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas by Clement Clarke Moore, which includes the now famous line, The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. Santa and his wife, Mrs. Claus, are said to reside at the North Pole, where they prepare for Christmas by keeping track of children's behavior. Each year, children write letters to Santa and often leave cookies and milk for him, along with carrots for the reindeer. Santa is known to keep a naughty list and a nice list to determine which children deserve gifts. This concept was popularized in the 1934 Christmas song, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, which has since become a holiday classic. Rudolph. Rudolph, the famous reindeer known for his glowing red nose, was a creation that came nearly a century after the other 8 reindeer in Santa's sleigh. His story was written by Robert L. May, a copywriter at the Montgomery Ward department store, in 1939. Initially, May was tasked with creating a holiday story to attract more customers to the store during the Christmas season. Drawing inspiration from the classic rhyming pattern of "'Twas the night before Christmas," May crafted the story of a young reindeer named Rudolph. Unlike the other reindeer, who mocked him for his shiny red nose, Rudolph found himself in a position of great importance when Christmas Eve arrived foggy and thick with mist. Santa, concerned about the possibility of not being able to deliver presents in such weather, realized that Rudolph's nose could light the way. Thanks to his unique feature, Rudolph was able to guide Santa's sleigh through the fog, saving Christmas for children around the world. The message behind Rudolph's tale, turning what was once considered a flaw into a strength, struck a chord with readers, making it an instant success. In 1939 alone, Montgomery Ward sold over 2.5 million copies of the story. When it was reissued in 1946, sales surged to more than 3.5 million. In the years that followed, the story's popularity only grew. In 1949, Johnny Marks, a friend of May's, adapted the tale into a song, which was recorded by Gene Autry. The song, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, became an enormous hit, selling over 2 million copies and solidifying Rudolph's place as a beloved Christmas character. Rudolph's story was later translated into 25 languages and was made into a television special in 1964, narrated by Burl Ives. The animated special has since become a staple of holiday programming, bringing the tale of the red-nosed reindeer into homes every Christmas season. But Santa Claus and his lore aren't the only figures super important to Christmas time. Christkind, Germany, and Switzerland. In German-speaking Switzerland, 2 key figures are central to the Christmas festivities: Christkind, or the Christ Child, and Samichlaus, the Swiss equivalent of Santa Claus. On Christmas Eve, it is Christkind who is said to deliver the gifts, while on December 6th, Samichlaus visits children, bringing small gifts like mandarins, nuts, and chocolates. Historically, Christmas in Switzerland was primarily a religious observance. It wasn't until the 19th century that it became a more family-centered celebration, reflecting broader social and economic changes. Prior to that, the giving of gifts was often associated with specific saints' feast days. For example, in Catholic areas, gifts were traditionally exchanged on St. Nicholas's Day, December 6th, and in Protestant areas, the custom took place on New Year's Day. During these times, St. Nicholas, known as Samichlaus in Swiss German, was the one who brought presents. The Protestant Reformation in the 16th century, which sought to remove the veneration of saints, led to a shift in Christmas customs. Reformers replaced St. Nicholas with a more secular figure, the Christkind, or Christ Child. Over time, this figure became less associated with the infant Jesus, and evolved into a more angelic, gift-bringing character. The Christkind became the figure who brought gifts on Christmas Eve, and this tradition grew in popularity throughout Germany and Switzerland. Today, the Christkind is still considered the primary gift bringer in many German-speaking regions, while Samichlaus maintains a presence, particularly in the form of his gift-giving on December 6th. The blending of these traditions shows how customs evolve over time, influenced by cultural, religious, and societal shifts. In modern Switzerland, Christmas remains a mixture of both older religious practices and newer, more commercial customs. The Christmas tree is decorated, gifts are exchanged, and families gather to celebrate, with Christkind and Samichlaus both playing key roles in the festivities. La Befana, Italy. In Italy, the tradition of La Befana is an integral part of the Christmas and New Year celebrations. On the evening of January 5th, children eagerly hang their stockings, waiting for the visit of this unique figure who arrives to mark the culmination of the Christmas season. La Befana, often depicted as an elderly, kindly witch, has been bringing gifts to children for centuries. Unlike the traditional Santa Claus, whose appearance is celebrated on Christmas Eve, Befana's visit occurs on the eve of the Epiphany, January 5th, which is a major holiday in Italy. Befana's origins are intertwined with both Christian and pre-Christian traditions. The most widely accepted theory suggests that her name comes from Epifania, the Italian word for Epiphany, which commemorates the visit of the three kings or magi to the newborn Christ. However, some scholars trace her roots further back to Roman times, speculating that she may be a Christianized version of a Roman goddess named Strenia or Sabine. Strenia, associated with health and purification, was often considered a protector of children, a role that Befana seems to have inherited. While her origins may be ancient, the modern-day Befana resembles the grandmotherly figure adored by Italian children. She is usually portrayed as a kind, if somewhat eccentric old woman, dressed in a dark shawl and a headscarf, riding a broomstick. She carries a basket of gifts and is often shown with a smile, despite her witch-like appearance. Befana's broom, unlike the one used by witches in fairy tales, is a symbol of her nurturing role. She is said to sweep the floors of homes before she departs, a gesture believed to clear away the old and prepare for the new year. The folklore surrounding Befana is rich and varied. According to the legend, after the three kings passed through her home on their way to find the Christ child, they invited Befana to join them. She initially declined, but later regretted the decision and attempted to catch up with them. Despite her search, she never found the baby Jesus, and now she is said to wander the world every January 5th, bringing gifts to children as a way of seeking redemption. As she travels, she leaves small treats, such as candies, fruit, and toys, along with an occasional lump of coal for naughty children. The coal is a symbolic reminder to children that good behavior is rewarded, while mischief earns a warning. Befana's visit is part of Italy's broader tradition of Epiphany celebrations, which include processions, festivals, and special meals. One of the most famous of these is the Festival of La Befana in Urbania, a town in central Italy, which attracts tens of thousands of visitors each year. The celebration, held on January 5th, features parades, performances, and a large gathering of people dressed as Befana, handing out sweets to children. Despite her somewhat fearsome appearance, Befana is not a malevolent witch. She is not the type who lures children into danger, as seen in tales like Hansel and Gretel. Instead, she is a benevolent figure, much like the good witch archetype in folklore. In fact, she is often referred to affectionately as the Christmas witch, thanks to her ties to the holiday and her association with protective and nurturing roles in both pagan and Christian traditions. Jultomten, Sweden. In Sweden, the figure most associated with Christmas is not the jolly Santa Claus, but a much smaller, elf-like character known as Jultomten, or simply Tomten. While many people are familiar with the concept of Santa, Swedish traditions are home to a unique version of this beloved figure, one who is deeply rooted in ancient folklore. Originally, Tomten was a mythical creature, similar to a house gnome, who lived secretly in the homes or barns of Swedish families. Small in stature but powerful in influence, Tomten was known for protecting children, animals, and property from harm. He also had a reputation for being temperamental. If he was treated disrespectfully or his home was not properly maintained, he could play tricks, damage crops, or even harm livestock. Thus, families had to be cautious and respectful of this creature, offering him food and attention to ensure his goodwill. The transformation of Tomten into Jultomten began in the mid-1800s, when he evolved into a figure more like the modern Santa Claus. This change was largely influenced by the growing popularity of Christmas and the need for a gift bringer who could deliver presents to children. Jultomten is often depicted wearing a red cap and a white beard, much like the traditional Santa Claus. However, he retains some of his original characteristics, including his small size and connection to the farm. Unlike Santa Claus, who is said to enter homes via the chimney, Jultomten enters through the front door. This tradition stems from the belief that he is more of a neighborly figure than a distant magical being. Families often dress up as jultomten, especially in households with young children, where an adult may take on the role of delivering presents dressed as the little elf. One distinctive feature of Swedish Christmas tradition is the custom of leaving porridge for jultomten, rather than the typical cookies and milk left for Santa in other countries. It is believed that jultomten requires this offering to remain in good spirits. If a family forgets to provide the porridge, they risk angering jultomten, which could result in mischief or bad luck. Jultomten is closely associated with the Swedish Yule, or Jul, which was originally a midwinter festival celebrating the return of the sun. The Yule goat, another figure in Swedish folklore, was once responsible for delivering gifts, but over time, the role was taken over by jultomten, who became the central figure in Swedish Christmas celebrations. Though jultomten no longer lives in the homes of Swedish families as he once did, he is still very much a part of modern Swedish Christmas celebrations. Dead Moroz, Russia. In contrast to the traditional Santa Claus figure of Western Christmas, Russia celebrates the holiday season with a distinctly different character known as Dead Moroz, or Grandfather Frost. Unlike the jolly, rotund Santa, Dead Moroz is portrayed as a tall, slender figure, draped in a long robe that can come in various colors, such as blue or white. His flowing beard and his mystical, wizard-like presence set him apart from the familiar red-coated version of Santa. In Russian tradition, Dead Moroz is not accompanied by elves, but by his granddaughter, Snegorochka, the Snow Maiden. Together, they bring holiday cheer to children across the country. While Santa's sleigh is traditionally pulled by reindeer, Dead Moroz travels by sleigh, powered by 3 powerful horses. This imagery of horses rather than reindeer has deep roots in Russian folklore and cultural identity. However, Dead Moroz's journey through Russian history has been anything but smooth. The character, which originated from ancient Slavic pagan myths, endured a turbulent fate during the Soviet era. In the early 20th century, Russia experienced massive social and political upheavals, particularly with the rise of the Soviet Union in 1922. The new communist regime, which sought to establish a classless society, viewed religion and religious figures as tools of the bourgeoisie to suppress the working class. As a result, Dead Moroz was initially banned and exiled as a symbol of religious and capitalist oppression. During this time, Christmas celebrations, which were linked to religious observance, were forbidden, and anyone attempting to partake in these festivities faced severe consequences. The situation shifted dramatically in 1935, however, when Soviet leader Joseph Stalin sought to revitalize public morale and boost his popularity in the wake of years of collectivization, famine, and economic hardship. To this end, he decided to reinstate Dead Moroz, albeit with some significant changes. Under Stalin's directive, Christmas was not to be celebrated, but New Year's Eve was rebranded as the primary winter holiday, and Dead Moroz was assigned the task of delivering gifts on the morning of January 1st, bypassing any religious association. Christmas trees, once banned as symbols of bourgeois excess, were reintroduced but renamed New Year's trees. Despite the government's attempt to secularize the holiday, Dead Moroz played an important role in Soviet propaganda. During New Year's celebrations, Soviet media often portrayed scenes of happy workers celebrating with Dead Moroz, dancing and toasting to Stalin's leadership. In the 1960s, during the height of the space race between the Soviet Union and the United States, Dead Moroz was even depicted in space-themed imagery, further intertwining the figure with Soviet progress and technological achievement. He was shown riding rockets and dressed in futuristic attire, ready for interstellar adventures. Despite these efforts to make him a tool of Soviet ideology, Dead Moroz remained a beloved figure among Russian families, embodying a symbol of joy and hope amid the struggles of daily life. Today, Dead Moroz continues to be the central figure in Russia's New Year's celebrations. His role as a gift-bringer has become so deeply ingrained in the culture that his association with the New Year holiday has surpassed even Christmas in importance. However, there remains a sense of rivalry between Dead Moroz and the Western figure of Santa Claus, with some modern Russian politicians championing Dead Moroz as a symbol of true Russian spirit, while Western-style Santa is sometimes seen as an imposter. The Yule Goat, Norse mythology. The Yule Goat is a prominent symbol of Christmas in Nordic countries such as Sweden, Norway, and Finland. This traditional figure appears in many forms, from Christmas decorations and ornaments to the famous giant effigy in Gävle, Sweden, where it is built annually from straw and a metal frame. While the Gävle goat itself is meant to be a festive display, it has become infamous for its annual destruction. Over the past several decades, the goat has been set on fire more than 30 times, despite efforts to protect it with fences, security cameras, and guards. But how did a goat become so central to the celebration of Yule? The origins of the Yule goat can be traced back to ancient Norse mythology, specifically to the god Thor. Thor's chariot was drawn by two magical goats, which were able to be killed and eaten by Thor, only to miraculously regenerate by the following morning. These goats, which feature prominently in Norse sagas, were seen as powerful, immortal creatures. This goat symbolism also relates to the Yule sacrifice, an ancient Nordic tradition in which a man dressed in goat skins and carrying a goat's head effigy would be symbolically killed and then reborn. This ritual, which celebrated the rebirth of the sun during the winter solstice, was later incorporated into Christianized versions of the Yule celebration. Early Christians, however, did not embrace the Yule goat. They viewed it as a demonic figure and incorporated it into folktales where it would demand food from children and cause mischief. Over time, the Yule goat lost its fearsome reputation and transformed into a more benign, festive figure. By the 19th century, the Yule goat had become associated with Christmas celebrations, often depicted as a companion of Santa Claus, delivering presents to children. In Scandinavian folk art, the Yule goat is sometimes shown carrying Santa's gifts, or even as Santa's own mode of transportation, alongside or instead of Santa's sleigh. Today, the Yule goat is no longer seen as a frightening figure. It is a beloved part of the holiday season in the Nordic countries, where it is frequently featured in Christmas displays. In fact, the tradition of constructing a giant Yule goat in Gävle has become an iconic part of Swedish Christmas culture, symbolizing both the enduring nature of old traditions and the sometimes rebellious spirit that continues to characterize the holiday season in the Nordic countries. So, which of these foreign Santas shocked you the most? And did the true story of Santa Claus surprise you? Let us know in the comments.